Marvel Rivals Season 2 should be out exactly right now because I scheduled this video to be out at the same time it goes live. So yeah, watch this video and then go play the game. On a side note, I will be live later on Twitch, so you can watch for 4 hours to get some cosmetics, including this Namor skin. All right, let's begin. For Captain America, the patch notes say his HP is being decreased from 675 to 650, but he has a new team up with Winter Soldier this season and gains 100 HP and a 5% damage boost. So his actual net HP gain is plus 75 as he sits at 750 for the season. And his shield HP is being reduced from 400 to 350 as well. Speaking of team ups, the one with Thor and Storm is gone, and he now has a new one with Winter Soldier. And what you do with Bucky is you press the button as Cap and then you wait. The responsibility is on the Bucky player to confirm, and then you'll both collide into each other, creating an AoE wave of damage. This new ability is on a 12-second cooldown. Doctor Strange getting some more nerfs again. His primary fire, which is called Daggers of Danak, the damage per projectile is being reduced from 18 to 16, and the damage ratio of the Maelstrom of Madness energy is being reduced from 1.3 to 1.2. What that means is when you're at 100 energy, the explosion damage is going to go from 130 to 120. That means if you ult somebody with their double hitbox, your damage is nerfed from 260 to 240, so you can't one-shot 250 HP heroes anymore from full health. Strange no longer gets the Gamma Radiation team up with Hulk, but instead teams up with Scarlet Witch as the anchor, so he gains 100 base health for the season, making him 700 HP instead of 600, so that's a buff there. Hulk is getting some buffs, which is a shame because he's going to get banned every game with the Namor Green Monstro team up squids, which we'll cover later. Hulk's base movement speed is going to be increased from 600 to 650. I'm not sure what unit of measurement this is, but just know he's faster now. The cooldown for his bubble, which is called Indestructible Guard, is reduced from 12 to 10 seconds. And finally, the minimum charge time for the Incredible Leap is decreased from 0.7 to 0.5 seconds, so you can hop around the battlefield way more frequently. Magneto getting some changes. First, the rate of fire in which he gets his ultimate Meteor M is being nerfed because the energy cost is going to be increased from 3100 to 3400. For his team up, he loses the Metallic Fusion Greatsword with Scarlet Witch, and instead, he now teams up with Emma Frost and gains the Magnetic Resonance ability, which puts up this mirror image of himself for 4 seconds. This duplicate will move like you and shoot your primary fire like you, but it'll only deal about 25% of the normal damage. Additionally, it can also use your base abilities like your bubble and your shield. However, when you ult, the mirror will just use his primary fire instead of throwing down a meteor as well, because that'd be a little outrageous, right? The big takeaway is that this mirror image does do a little bit of damage, which actually changes some breakpoints. So take a look at this side by side. All right, Penny's actually getting some pretty decent buffs. Her base health is going to be increased from 650 to 750, and the bigger change is that her primary fire, called Cyber Web Clusters, can now crit, which is now going to reward you for actually trying to aim for people at the head. She will also move faster while shooting because the movement speed penalty is going to be reduced from 40% to 20%. The Thing is getting a slight nerf. The Embattled Leap's damage reduction for himself and his teammates when he jumps on them is going to be nerfed from 30% to 25%, so really minor. Thor is actually losing a net 25 HP. He's going to go from 625 to 600. But if you actually read the official patch notes, it does say he's getting an HP buff, but that's because they're actually removing the team up with Thor and Captain America this season, which means he lost that 100 HP bonus as the anchor. But outside of that, his base movement speed is going to be increased from 600 to 650, so he can move around a little bit quicker. Black Widow is getting some new effects to smooth out her gameplay. First, you can now shoot after releasing the second kick of her Edge Dancer, and you can now shoot after using your Electroplasma Explosion, which is her ultimate ability. Hawkeye is getting 4 buffs. First, they're reducing the natural slowing effect while charging the bow from 30% to 20%, and both instances of damage for the hypersonic arrow is going to be increased from 50 to 55. The bow draw speed when he uses his ultimate, Hunter's Sight, is going to be increased from 1.35 to 1.5 times. And the ultimate itself will build faster, as its cost is going to be reduced from 3,700 to 3,100. Hela is getting some slight adjustments. First, the cooldown for Astral Flock is increased from 12 to 15 seconds, so she can't use that escape tool as frequently. However, they are compensating that nerf by buffing the splash damage of Piercing Knight from 30 to 35. And they're decreasing the cooldown of Soul Drainer from 12 to 10 seconds. Our Human Torch is going to be firing a lot faster now because the recovery time or the attack interval of fire clusters is going to be reduced from 0.6 seconds to 0.5 seconds in between each shot. There's also a new effect for Flaming Meteor where if you commit to dive bombing down, you will gain 75 bonus health, which decays after 3 seconds at a rate of 30 per second. They're also going to be increasing the cooldown of Flaming Meteor from 12 to 15 seconds to compensate. Alright, Iron Man, his hitbox size is going to be slightly reduced so he's harder to hit. And additionally, he now gains 100 bonus health after activating either Armor Overdrive or Gamma Overdrive, which will start to decay after 5 seconds at a rate of 30 health per second. For Iron Fist, they're reducing the bonus maximum health he gains from the Harmony Recovery from 150 to 100. However, the rate of decay is going to be going down from 25 per second to 15 per second. So if you look at the side by side, it sort of brings you back to your normal HP around the same time. Now for his main flurry of punches, each strike is getting its flat damage reduced from 10 to 9. But the percentage damage you deal based on the enemy's max health is going to be increased from 1.7% to 2.1%. So it'll feel pretty much the same on like the 2 to 300 HP heroes, but you'll definitely be stronger against tanks. You're also going to be reducing the cooldown of Kunlun Kick from 12 to 10 seconds. That's his movement one. Mr. Fantastic is getting some pretty hefty changes in his playstyle. First, his base health is going to be increased from 350 to 375, and they're going to be boosting the damage of the Stretch Punch from 60 to 65, and from 75 to 80 while he's inflated. He's also getting a new effect for his Flexible Elongation, where enemies now suffer a 35% slow within range, and they're going to be reducing the cooldown of this ability from 10 to 8 seconds. This all sounds great, it's all buff so far, but here's a nerf for it. The elasticity gained is going to be reduced from 30 to 20. That's pretty chunky. To make up for it, each punch is going to give you a little bit more elasticity. It's going to go from 5 to 8. And after he enters this inflated state, the bonus health provided to himself has been reduced from 450 to 400. His ultimate though is getting a major buff, a much needed one actually, because he will now immediately gain his inflated state bonus HP of 400. So it's definitely going to be improving the ultimate consistency, along with having another oh shit button, so to speak. Alright, Moon Knight's been underperforming by a pretty large margin based on the stats we see, so he's getting some pretty big buffs for Season 2. First, they're increasing his main weapon projectile speed from 120 meters per second to 150 meters per second. For his secondary fire, Moonblade, it has a new effect where he gains 25 bonus health with each enemy hit up to a maximum of 100. This will decay after 3 seconds at a rate of 20 per second. His Moonlight Hook grapple time is going to be reduced from 0.4 to 0.15 seconds, so it'll feel a lot less clunky and a lot more smooth. And his ultimate, Hand of Khonshu, will now have its duration increased from 3.5 seconds to 4.5 seconds. Additionally, these Falling Talons are going to be increased from 14 to 18, and the fall speed of them is going to be increased as well. However, there's going to be a new damage fall-off mechanic for the splash damage from these talons, beginning at 1.5 meters from the center and reaching a maximum of a 70% damage fall-off at 5 meters, which is around the outer ring of it. So while it's more potent in the center, especially if you get pulled in with the Ankh, it will feel a lot weaker near the edge. For Namor, he has lost the Frozen Spawn ability from his team up with Luna Snow, but he now teams up with Hulk. This monstro is now a ginormous green laser with the 40-meter range. Not sure about the DPS yet, but it does a lot. It is a lot of single target DPS that is amplified if you use your secondary fire as well. For Psylocke, she also lost a team up, the Dimensional Shortcut with Magic, but she now gains the Mirror Image team up with Emma Frost. So it's similar to Magneto. It's a 4-second mirror that mimics your abilities. It deals 25% of your damage with the primary fire when you shoot, and again, it does not copy your ultimate and it'll just continue firing. Scarlet Witch is getting the percentage damage removed on Chaos Control. Yeah, believe it or not, she has percentage damage, and is getting her flat damage rate increased from 60 to 80 per second. The Chthonian Burst projectile damage is going to be increased from 35 to 40, and the spell field damage is going to also be increased from 35 to 40, which makes the direct hits go from 70 to 80, so it's another buff here. However, the cooldown of the Mystic Projection, that's like her phase out ability, is going to be increased from 8 to 10 seconds, and the time that she's phased, the state time, is going to be reduced from 2 to 1.5 seconds, so there's less slipperiness. And finally, the initial move speed slow that she gets when she ults will now begin after 1.5 seconds instead of starting immediately, with a linear increase to a 35% slow over the 3.5 seconds. Overall, this should allow her to fly quicker into like a better spot or angle. Scarlet Witch is no longer the anchor for Magneto's team up and is now teamed up with Doctor Strange, and it's called Arcane Order. This replaces her secondary fire, Chthonian Burst, with this constant barrage of magic that lasts 10 seconds. You can also hold your Chaos Control primary fire at the same time, so you can suck them off and blast their face simultaneously. For Star-Lord, he's getting a reduction in his blaster barrage damage from 80 per second to 75 per second, which is good because this combo was ridiculous with the Magneto bubble. Also, they're adding fall-off damage, so it's only going to do 80% of its normal damage when you're about 8 meters away, which is the max distance. For Season 2, Storm is going to lose the Charged Gale team-up ability with Thor. However, she still gets to keep the Fire Tornadoes with Human Torch. Winter Soldier has been pretty problematic. I think he's one of the best DPS heroes, so he's getting some much-needed nerfs for Season 2. The cooldown time for Bionic Hook is going to be increased from 8 seconds to 12 seconds. And his ultimate, the Kraken Impact, is getting a two-part nerf. First, the base damage is going to be reduced from 100 to 80, and the culling threshold, that red part of the HP that would execute people, that is going down from 20% of the max health to 15% of the max health. So you need to get them lower before they actually die and you get a reset. Alright, for Winter Soldier team-ups, he loses the infinite ammo one with Rocket, but he now gains that new one called Stars Aligned with Captain America. This ability has two parts. The first is specific with Cap, where both players must confirm that they want to slam into each other, and then they both fly and meet in the middle. However, Bucky specifically gets the ability to slam to any teammate without confirmation. They obviously won't move and meet in the middle, but the collision will deal around 70 damage to nearby targets. Finally, for Wolverine, he's getting an increase in the rage he gains from his Savage Claw hits from 7 to 10 rage. That's his normal slash. While the rage he gains from his Berserk Claws is actually going to be decreased from 7 to 5. And this is the slash you get after you use your Pharaoh Leap, the really fast ones. The instant rage you get from using Pharaoh Leap is going to be reduced from 20 to 10 as well. And the instant rage you get from using Vicious Rampage is reduced from 20 to 15. However, the overall rage Wolverine gains from taking damage has been increased from 3 to 5. And finally, they're nerfing the time an enemy is knocked down after the impact from his Last Stand ultimate ability from 1 second to 0.75 seconds. Alright, for the strategist, Adam Warlock is the first on the chopping block. He's getting a big cooldown nerf for his Soul Bond, as it's going to be increased from 30 seconds to 40 seconds, which is a shame since it's his best ability. Like, 40 seconds is a long time, guys. And for his ultimate, Karmic Revival, it now restores 30% of an ally's HP instead of a fixed 100 HP, which is slightly worse for heroes under 300 HP, but way better when rezzing tanks. When Cloak and Dagger uses her ultimate, the Eternal Bond, the duration of the first 3 healing zones will no longer be calculated separately. Instead, they will remain active until the full duration of the final healing zone ends, at which point the whole ult will disappear together. For Invisible Woman, a very, very small nerf to her Guardian Shield. The HP of it is going to be decreased from 300 to 250. For Loki, another small nerf where the regeneration domain cooldown is going to be increased from 25 to 30 seconds. And when you think about it, this ability is better than Soul Bond from Adam, and it's like on a way shorter cooldown. For Mantis, her base health is going to be reduced from 275 to 250. However, the effects of the Healing Flower and Allied Inspiration, so that's her Healing Orb and her Damage Boost Orb, those can now be stacked up to a maximum of 16 seconds. Normally, one orb lasts for 8 seconds, so you can quickly throw 2 of them on there and get 16 seconds of value, and every time you throw another one back on a teammate, it'll refresh and add 8 seconds up to that 16-second cap. Rocket is getting some pretty big adjustments to enhance his team survivability. So the healing of the repair mode spheres is going to be decreased from 70 HP per second to 50 HP per second. However, you get a new effect of a one-time healing of 55 HP on a direct hit. The projectile speed reduction, where the healing slows down when near an ally, is going to be increased from 4.5 meters per second to 7 meters per second. That's a nerf because that means the orb is flying away faster, which means less time spent healing. However, his mobility is getting a cut here, where his jetpack dash cooldown is going to be increased from 6 to 10 seconds per dash, and the distance is going to be reduced from 10 meters to 8 meters. Now for his ultimate, CYA, big change here. The damage boost it gives is being nerfed from 40% to 25%, but it's getting a brand new effect where the linked allies will receive 100 HP per second, a bonus 100 HP per second, so it's blue health, which caps out at 150 bonus HP. And anytime you break out of line of sight, that bonus health will fall off after 1 second at a rapid rate of 75 HP per second. And to top it all off, this ultimate will take a little bit longer to build, as the ult cost is going to be increased from 3,700 to 4,000. And that's it. Enjoy Season 2. Come watch my stream at twitch.tv/KarQ if you want the Namor skin, or if you want some company, or if you enjoy some Loki gameplay. I got you.